Hi guys, Mrs. Moon here. Checking in with some more chapters of our class book. So, we are, for those of you, I know that there's a few of you that have bought a boy and a bear in a boat, so that you can follow along with your reading. For those of you, we are on page 201, and this is a chapter called The Mermaid. The boy awoke. For a moment, he couldn't remember where he was. Then he remembered he was in the boat, but he couldn't remember having gone to sleep. But he was lying down in his usual spot between the rear and the centre seats, and he had woken up, so he must have gone to sleep. But he couldn't remember, and there was something else wrong. "Ow!" he said again, and that reminded him. "How's your head?" asked the bear, standing over him with a cup of tea as the boy delicately raised himself from the deck. "It feels like it's full of bees," said the boy. "You should be more careful," said the bear. "You went flying into my belly and then bashed your head on the deck after you'd bounced off. You could do yourself serious mischief jumping up like that." "I wasn't jumping about. I fell off," said the boy. "You should be more careful and look where you're going." "I couldn't look where I was going, could I? We couldn't see anything," said the bear. "Because of the mist, remember?" "Well, that's no excuse for bumping into—" The boy looked at the bear. "We bumped into something," said the boy. "Yes," said the bear. "What did we bump into?" said the boy. "See for yourself," said the bear, waving a pole over his shoulder. I'm trying to measure it up so that you can see the picture properly. The boy looked up past the bear and through the thinning mist at a dark, looming shape close behind him. "It's a ship!" said the boy. "Yes, it is," said the bear, sipping from his cup. "Well, are we going on board then?" said the boy. "What are we waiting for?" The bear lifted his cup. "I'm just finishing my tea," he said. He took another sip. "And I've shouted ahoy and nobody's answered. The crew are either very rude or—" "Or what?" said the boy. "Or deaf?" "No," said the bear. "Or very, very shy?" said the boy. "No," said the bear. "I don't think there is anyone on board." "Well then," said the boy as he pushed past the bear, picking his way past the gas stove and the teapot on the floor, leaned over the side, reached out a hand towards the ship. "Look, there's a rope here. We can climb up." "At least no one alive," said the bear. "I think it might be—" "What?" said the boy. "A ghost ship," said the bear. "That's ridiculous," said the boy, but it came out sounding strange because he shivered as he said it. He looked up at the ship. It did look creepy, and it was very old enough to be in a museum rather than out at sea. Its sails were tattered, and its rigging looked like spiders' webs. Faded, flaking, painted lettering spelled out the ship's name, The Mermaid. On its prow, beside the carved wooden mermaid figurehead, her face worn almost featureless by many years of sea and weather. But more than how it looked, there was something the boy felt, something deep inside his otherwise empty stomach, something wrong. The boy's hand wavered in the air just short of the dangling rope. The gentle rise and fall of the waves rocking the Harriet tipped the boy's arm sometimes towards and sometimes away from the ship. A slight breeze pushed the rope and set it in motion, its free ends swinging in a slow circle. Hand and rope moved back and forth and round, dancing a strange dance together without ever quite touching. The boy watched them, mesmerized, forgetting altogether that the hand was his own, and that he could pull it away any time and stick it safely in his pocket. He was fascinated and petrified, wondering what would happen if the hand were to touch the rope. Maybe if anything living touched anything ghostly, then it died. Could that be right? "Caw," said the bird. The boy and the bear looked up and saw a bright blue shape perched on its rigging of the main mast. Looking very much alive, the rope brushed against the back of the boy's hand. Nothing bad happened. The boy grabbed the rope and pulled it towards him, took hold with the other hand too, and stepped up on the side of the harriet. I suppose you thought you'd scared me," he said to the bear, "but I'm climbing on board." And with that, he lifted his feet and swung the short distance to the ship. His feet hit the side with a reassuring, unghostly thud. He began to climb the rope, only he couldn't. The boy had seen loads of films where heroes climbed ropes, and it always looked really easy, but he'd never actually done it himself. It turned out it wasn't easy at all, especially when the sea spray had made both the rope and the side of the ship wet and slippery. His feet slid down, and it was all the boy could do not to fall off entirely. He dangled there for a while, feeling equally scared and silly, his feet just above the water. "Take your time," said the bear eventually. "No rush." "Oh, shut up and help me out here," said the boy. "Righto," said the bear. He swallowed the last of his tea and put down the empty cup. Then he took hold of the boy and lifted him effortlessly back into the little boat. The boy grabbed the rope again. "You could climb up this, couldn't you? You'll have good grip if you dig your claws in." "Maybe," said the bear, "but I'm not going aboard uninvited. It's rude to go aboard another captain's vessel uninvited." But if you think there's nobody on board, then how can you be invited? In fact, if there's nobody on board, then maybe as a fellow captain you should go aboard just to make sure the ship's all right. As a favour. The bear glanced up at the ship and then back at the boy. He looked like he was thinking, and then he looked resigned. Then he looked determined. "You're right." "I am?" said the boy. "Yes, we have to go aboard. You can climb onto my back and I can carry you up. Here, tie us to the ship. I need to grab a few things." The bear handed the boy the end of a short coil of tatty rope and began to stuff some things in his suitcase. He was busy and efficient now that the decision was made. The boy looked up again as he tied the bear's rope to the ship's rope. Then the mist had risen enough for him to have a clear view of the ship now, but a few foggy tendrils remained, clutching at the upper parts of the mast like fingers of a giant ghost. He finished off a messy knot joining the two ropes, quickly attached the free end to the harriet, and gulped down his fear. "Come on," said the bear. He was standing right in front of the boy with the suitcase in one paw. He turned around and crouched a little. The boy climbed onto the seat and from there jumped onto the bear's back, wrapping his arms around his neck. "Hold on tight," said the bear, and the boy did as he was told. The bear put the handle of the suitcase between his teeth and leaped nimbly from the side of the boat, neatly caught hold of the rope and climbed straight up it as effortlessly as walking along a pavement. The boy clung to his neck, dangling and swaying as the bear raced upwards. Then, all at once, they were over the rail. The bear landed elegantly on his feet, the boy losing his grip and sprawling across the deck. He got up and took a deep, calming breath as he looked around. There was no sign of life on the deck, but there was no sign of anything dangerous or scary either. Just nothing, and no one. Aside from the blue bird quietly watching them from its place in the rigging, the ship seemed entirely deserted. There was no sound either, except for the lapping of the water far below them and the faint snuffling of the bear sniffing inquisitively at the air. "What can you smell?" said the boy. "Only the sea," said the bear, his eyes hard and serious, and then, with a smile and a glance towards the boy, "and exploded monster. You need to wash your clothes, you know. Come on, then, this way." He strode off towards the rear of the ship. "The captain's cabin will be in the aft, I should think. We should see if he's home." "Doesn't look like it," said the boy, looking around. After so long on the Harriet, the first thing he noticed was the vastness of it all. He'd seen from the sea level that the ship was big, of course. In some ways its scale had been even more impressive from that perspective, but now not only did he see the size, but also the space. It was eerie and set the boy's nerves jangling, but at the same time it felt tremendously good to stretch his legs again at last. They went down some of the steps from the raised foredeck, back along the main deck, and then up again, up 2 sets of steps to the highest deck at the back of the ship. They came to a door. The bear tapped on it with a delicate knuckle, and then, after a moment's silence, a heavy one, there was no reply. "Let's get in there, then," said the boy. "We can't just barge in," said the bear. "Our captain's cabin is—" But the boy had already pushed back the door and poked his head inside. "Cooey! Hello! Ahoy there!" he said. There was no one there, so he went all the way inside, and the bear, muttering darkly, followed him. It was an impressive room, full of finery, intricate ancient charts on a solid-looking desk. Behind the desk, an ornately carved chair with a fine patterned silk cover on its cushioned seat. A painting of a sea battle in a fancy golden frame on one wood panel wall. A shiny brass lantern hanging from the ceiling. "Ooh, now this is nice," said the bear, gazing round, impressed at the luxury quarters of fellow captain. "The captain's not here," said the boy, tugging him hard at the arm towards the door. "Where's the kitchen?" "Oh, the galley'll be below deck somewhere," said the bear, stumbling back out into the light. "Follow me." They headed back down to the main deck, and from there, through the hatch, and down a steep wooden steps into a half-light of the ship's interior, where the boy's briefly forgotten fear returned. Above decks had been empty of all signs of life. Here below there was still no one to be seen, but every sign that there once had been. They were in the crew's sleeping quarters, which was crammed with too many rough wooden bunks, each of them still covered with dishevelled blankets. Here and there were items of clothing, a waistcoat, a jacket, a hat, all of a style from centuries ago, but looking from their condition only a few years old. On the floor were playing cards set down mid-game next to coins of a kind the boy had never seen before. It was as if life had been going on here only moments ago, and then suddenly everyone had just disappeared. The boy shivered. The bear sniffed the air. "What do you smell now?" said the boy. "Danger," said the bear. The boy looked alarmed. The bear sniffed again. "Or maybe marmalade," said the bear. The boy gave him a dubious stare. "Possibly both," said the bear. He set off cheerfully towards the door at the far end of the sleeping quarters, the boy pacing after him. They passed through another set of quarters, as empty of life and full of mystery as the first, through a further door and down some steps into darkness. "Where are you taking us?" said the boy. There was a scratching sound, and a match flared into life. The bear held it up near his face, illuminating it as he answered the boy. Just follow my nose, he said, tapping his snout. They were at another door, which he now pushed open. Somewhere in the room beyond, the feeble light from the match found shining metal to glint off. Ow, said the bear, and the fading flame of the match burned right down to the bear's paw, dropped to the floor and expired, sending them into darkness seemingly deeper than ever before. The bear struck another match and carried its faint halo of light into the room. The boy stumbled part way in after him, squinting into the gloom, trying to make sense of the shapes that swam almost into focus and then sank back into darkness as the bear moved around. There was a loud clanging sound, and the bear came to a halt. Ow, said the bear again. He lifted the burning match and then raised his other paw beside it to steady the lantern that he had just set swinging with his head. Aha, he said, and the firefly light of the match bloomed and expanded inside the lantern, and the room revealed itself to them. The lantern had hung above a simple, sturdy wooden table with a large, sharp knife upon it. On one wall hung a variety of brass saucepans. On another there were some shelves containing various tins, bottles, and jars. Beneath these were some wooden boxes and small barrels stacked rather precariously on the floor. A number of unmarked brown sacks slumped beside them. The bear looked into one, and then, after a shake of his head, another. Here we go, he said. Biscuits. Really? Said the boy. Are they chocolate ones? Ah, not that kind of biscuit. These are ship's biscuits. Hardtack. He held one out, and the boy took it and examined it closely. It looked pretty much like an ordinary biscuit, but one of the boring ones he would only eat at home when all of the interesting ones had gone. And it was thinner than a proper biscuit, but it looked like it might not kill him. He took a bite. It was very hard and dry and tasted almost of nothing at all. Not only not as nice. It was the boringest food he had ever eaten, and it disappeared in 2 seconds. That was horrible, he said. Are there any more? There were. He had another 8. The last 3 made more palatable by the addition of a surprisingly good marmalade that the bear found in a cupboard, full of interesting jars. So, said the boy, speaking with his mouth full and spitting crumbs, wasn't danger you smelled then? Maybe not, said the bear. He looked serious and seemed about to say something else. Then he was distracted by the discovery of some dried meat. What kind of meat? Asked the boy. Best not to ask, said the bear, chewing of which took all of their effort and concentration and rendered any further conversation impossible. When they'd had enough, the bear got his ukulele out of the suitcase and played it and sang some songs. The boy joined in as best as he could, but couldn't really get hold of the tune and didn't know the words. Eventually, he just sang something else entirely at the same time. The bear seemed not to notice the difference, or perhaps he just didn't care. The boy was enjoying himself too. In a break between songs, the boy said, So, can you sell this thing? Well, said the bear, with the sails so torn and without a crew it'd be tricky, but yes, of course I could. Great, said the boy. But I'm not going to, obviously, said the bear. We'll get back on the Harriet. But why? Why do we have to be cooped up together on a silly little rowing boat when we could have all this space and marmalade and no, you wouldn't have to row? The bear gave the boy a stern look. The Harriet is my boat. I'm the captain. This ship has some other captain. Just because he's not here right now, doesn't mean we can go stealing it. We are not pirates. The boy thought about arguing, but could see that the bear was decided and determined on this matter. "We'll take some more of the food, though," said the bear. "I'll leave a note telling them what we've borrowed." Then he set about cramming all the food he could, biscuits and bottles and meats and jars, into 2 of the sacks. He handed the smaller one to the boy, and they headed up and out, back towards the harriet. The boy, dragging his sack along the deck, soon fell some way behind the bear, who carried his as if it weighed nothing at all. By the time the boy came up to the steps from the main deck to the foredeck, the sack clumped up the steps behind him. The bear must have been back at the rope for some time. Something was wrong. The bear was looking over the side of the ship, slumped over the rail as if he'd begun to deflate, and as the boy got closer, he thought he heard a tiny sob. He stood next to the bear. Is something the matter?" said the boy. The bear turned his head a touch, but only looked at the boy at the corner of his eye. He raised a forlorn arm and made a weak, pointing gesture down to the sea. The boy looked over the rail. "Oh," he said. He looked back at the bear, who seemed to be growing floppier and sadder with each passing minute. Said the boy. He looked back at the rail to make sure he'd seen what he thought he'd seen. The rope trailed down the side of the ship. On the end of it was a thinner rope that the boy had tied to it, and on the end of that was nothing at all. A quick look around revealed only an empty sea in all directions. The harriet was gone. "Oh," said the boy. The bear still did not look at him. "You were meant," said the bear, "to tie the other end to the harriet." "I did. I tied it to the metal thing that the oar goes in." "What kind of knot did you use?" The bear's voice was heavy, sad, and quiet. "Well, it wasn't exactly a knot. Not precisely. I just sort of wrapped it around a few times." The boy, listening to himself as he spoke, realised that this didn't sound good. "It seemed safe at the time," he said in an apologetic whisper. He thought that the bear would be angry, but he didn't say anything or do anything. He just stood there, slumped over the rail, gazing sadly down at where the harriet should have been, but wasn't. "Sorry," said the boy. The bear took in a deep, very deep breath, very slowly, and then let it all out again in a long, sad sigh, like a gigantic tyre with a puncture, leaving himself more crumpled and deflated than ever. "It's not your fault," said the bear, at the last, his voice full of disappointment and defeat. "I should have done it myself." "Sorry," said the boy again, but the bear didn't reply or move. The boy could think of nothing more to say, so he stood there awkwardly watching him for a while, and then shuffled away. He wished he could make the bear feel just a little better somehow, but the only thing he could think to do didn't seem nearly enough, but it was all he had. He ran back down the steps to the main deck, leaving the bear drably slouched over the rail, still and sad and broken looking. Oops. It wasn't a very loud bang, but it was enough to rouse the bear. He unfolded himself and stood smartly up, turning to see the boy approaching at some speed carrying the suitcase. "Did you hear that?" said the bear. "What?" said the boy. "That bang." No, I don't think so. Look, I was thinking, you're right, it would be wrong to take the ship. Maybe if there was a lifeboat on board somewhere, then we could borrow that, and it'd be quite cosy, more like the harrier, and you might feel better about it." "No, there's nothing. I looked," said the bear. "I'm afraid we'll have to take the ship. I don't like it, but it does look like there's been no one aboard for a long old while, so hopefully it'll be no harm done." "No lifeboats at all?" said the boy. "No," said the bear. He looked at the boy more closely. "Why is your face dirty?" he said. "Is it?" said the boy. "Yes, really black." "Oh, that's odd," said the boy, licking a hand and rubbing his cheek. "Looks like soot," said the bear. Said the boy. Are you sure you didn't hear a bang earlier? Thunder, maybe? No, not thunder. I know thunder when I hear it. The bear stared hard at the boy now, assessing the evidence in his dirty face, his fidgeting manner, his restless expression. What have you done? Nothing, said the boy, looking everywhere except in the bear's eyes. Really? Said the bear. Well, said the boy, I just thought I'd make you some tea. Oh, said the bear, because I thought it might cheer you up. So I tried to light your stove. Oh dear, said the bear. It's a bit tricky, that stove, isn't it? Said the boy, adjusting his stance on the deck, sloped to one side beneath his feet. Yes, it does take a bit of getting used to, said the bear. Somewhere above them was a loud kerfuffle of flapping wings which turned into a steady fading flap. Neither of them looked up to watch the bird's departure. And did this explosion make a very big hole in the ship? Said the bear. Quite big, yes, said the boy. Sorry. I wondered why my feet were getting wet, said the bear. The sea, having very poor table manners, swallowed down the mermaid with a rude haste. The hole in the hull that the boy's accident with the stove had made quickly widened as water surged into it, tearing free great chunks of wood. The vessel filled with water and plummeted down. The bear managed to hang onto the suitcase as they abandoned the ship, but the sacks of food, heavy to begin with, quickly became saturated, tugged themselves free of the bear's grip, and sank down. 1 half-full jar of marmalade bobbed back up to the surface, but the rest of the food followed the mermaid down into the deep, dark depths. The sinking hulk sucked the sea above it, and a downward tide pulled hard at the boy's legs. The bear threw a thick, furry arm around him and held him up as the churning water slapped insolently at their faces. They kicked and flapped and spluttered, and eventually the waters calmed around them. They floated, the boy gasping for breath, the bear sturdy as an island, amid scattering of barrels and planks and ripped sailcloth. Somewhere, high and far away, a bright blue bird said, "Caw!" What do we do now? Said the boy. Better swim, said the bear. You remember the rock on the map? Yes. Well, that's not far. We'll go there. It's quite a big rock, I think. Almost a small island. Might be quite nice. You never know. And you know where it is? Said the boy. Yes, said the bear with confidence. This way. He raised a paw above the surface and pointed with a small but certain gesture. Okay, said the boy. They put the suitcase on a fragment of the mermaid's hull that was floating nearby, and holding on to it, kicked their legs and made slow progress in the direction the bear had indicated. So it might have trees and food and water and stuff, this island, said the boy. Maybe, said the bear. I've never been, so I can't be sure. It's rather out of the way. I'm not sure anyone's ever been there, actually. Oh, right, said the boy. So if we're the first to go onto it, do we get to name it? I'm not sure, said the bear. Maybe. Yes, why not? Great, said the boy. We can name it after me. They both thought about this for a moment, though in different ways. Unless it's horrible, said the boy. Then we can name it after you. Thanks, said the bear. You're welcome, said the boy. They kicked on. They didn't say much more, as the boy was soon too exhausted to speak. After a while, the bear suggested that they should climb on his back and rest for a while. The boy should climb on his back and rest for a while, so he did. The sun was sinking now, and the boy nestled his face into the fur between the bear's shoulder blades. His wet shirt was beginning to dry a little in the still warm sun, and there was more heat rising into him from the bear. Despite the desperate situation, the boy felt strangely cozy. He was drowsy now and his eyelids drooping. Then, springing back open, he focused on the bear's fur close against his face, each hair sharply defined in this beautiful golden light, then blurring again as exhaustion pushed him towards sleep. He could feel the bear's slow, strong heartbeat bumping up against his chest, and with a comforting, steady rhythm, he could hear the bear was humming a tune. He tried to make it out, but it was too quiet. It could have been anything. He closed his eyes to concentrate better, and the darkness hugged him to sleep. Dry land. When the boy awoke, the first thing he saw was the bear's knees. At first he thought they were still on the Harriet, but then he recognised the surface beneath him was stone rather than wood, and remembered with a pang of guilt that the Harriet was lost. But at least the bear had gotten to the island, it seemed. He felt stiff as he pushed himself part way upright, as if the hardness of the rock had somehow seeped into him, and his eyes and head were fuzzy and half asleep. "Hello, bear," he said, blearily rubbing his eyes, trying to focus. "Oh, hello, boy," said the bear. He was sitting on his suitcase with his back to the sea, looking down at his captain's hat in his paws. Now he put it back on his head, blinked, and regarded the boy. "You really did know the way, then?" said the boy. "Of course," said the bear. "We were lucky, actually. It wasn't too far. There was an anomaly in the currents that helped us on our way. Have you had time to explore much of the place yet?" Yes." "How's it looking?" said the boy, yawning and stretching. "See for yourself." The bear waved a paw over the boy's shoulder. The boy turned his head and saw for himself. It wasn't an island. It was just a rock. There wasn't a single tree or plant to be seen. It wasn't even a very big rock. It certainly wasn't a pretty one. And it was almost as cluttered as Harriet had been, as various bits of flotsam from the mermaid seemed to have washed up onto it. "Oh, this is useless. We are on a cold, wet, ugly rock full of junk," said the boy. "We're naming it after you, then. The sea is over there, if you'd prefer it," said the bear, pointing. "It's roomier, but it's not so dry. Take your pick. Anyway, we're not stopping for long." "Oh, great. Where are we swimming to next?" "We're not swimming. I'm building a raft." The boy took another look at the scattered bits of wood and other bits and pieces around the place. There were some reasonably intact planks and some empty barrels. There was also a section of mast with some rigging still attached, so they had some rope to work with at least. And there was more such debris floating in the waters around the rock. If they swam out a little, they could gather some more material for the raft. He was about to suggest this to the bear when he noticed how wet his fur was. The bear had been busy while the boy had been asleep. Not much of the wood had drifted onto the rock unaided. "That's a good idea," said the boy quietly. "Can I help?" "Yes," said the bear, "but I'm tying all the knots." They worked quietly but happily together. The boy was hungry and still tired despite his sleep, but he helped where he could. Much of the wood was too heavy for him to carry, but he could roll the barrels along, and sometimes he was able to hold things in place while the bear lashed them together. He did as he was told and made himself useful, and the raft slowly began to take shape. At lunchtime they stopped and ate the marmalade. The boy worked every last scrap of it out of the jar with a finger. Afterwards he was sleepy again. "Have a nap," said the bear, spotting the yawn that the boy had tried to hide. "I can do this next bit on my own, and I'll need you fresh and alert for when we set off." The boy knew that the bear could have done all of it without him, really. He wanted to insist on helping him, but from his sitting position, it was far easier to lie down. Just for a moment, then it was to stand up. So he lay down and found the cold, wet rock was surprisingly warm and soft. He closed his eyes just for a moment. When he opened them again, the light had changed. The bear was tying a rope to the mast of the raft, and it looked like it was finished, more or less. That was quick, said the boy. Not really, said the bear. You've been asleep for hours. And snoring. I don't snore, said the boy. Do I? Just a bit. I thought the monster's dad was coming for us. Had me worried till I realised it was you. The boy looked hurt, but only a little. He took a closer look at the raft. It's a bit wonky looking, isn't it? He said, pointing. Well, I've had to improvise a lot with such limited materials to work with, said the bear. So it's no Harriet, I grant you, but it's sturdy enough. Will it float? Of course it will float, said the bear. He looked at the raft thoughtfully. I think. Well, can't we just shove it in the water and find out, said the boy. Not just yet. The tide's gone out. We'll have to wait for it to come back in. Oh, said the boy. He looked away from the raft to the sea. Oh, said the boy again. Indeed, the tide had indeed gone out. It had gone out rather a lot. The water level had fallen by a good 20 metres. The island they were on, as it turned out, was a tall column of rock, the sides of which dropped straight down into the sea. The boy looked cautiously over the edge to the distant waves and felt rather dizzy. He stepped back and sat down. That's not normal, is it? He said. 'Tis a bit unusual, admitted the bear. It's probably down to unforeseeable anomalies in the currents, said the boy. That's right, said the bear. How did you know? Lucky guess, said the boy. Anyway, we'll just have to wait for the tide to come back in and then we can set off. In the meantime, we'll need to get the sail on. The bear had managed to salvage a tablecloth from the debris of the mermaid. He held it up for the boy to see. It's a bit small, said the boy. A bit, yes, said the bear, but it's not such a big raft. And there are lots of holes in it, said the boy. Well, if you've got a sewing kit with you, then feel free to fix them, said the bear testily. But otherwise it will have to do. It'll be fine, you'll see. He tied it onto the crossbar at the top of the mast, and then he tied the bottom corners to the base of the raft, and he looked back with the boy. He stood back with the boy and looked at the end result. Well, said the bear, it's not pretty, but I reckon it'll go well enough. The boy could only agree. It really wasn't at all pretty. It was ragged and scruffy and just plain funny looking, but it was also oddly impressive. It looked strong and safe, as if it would survive weeks at sea with no trouble at all. The boy was entirely sure it would float, but he was certainly confident it wasn't entirely sure that it would float, but he was certainly confident it wouldn't fall apart. It was magnificent in its way. Actually, he said, that's pretty amazing. The bear didn't say anything. He was about to smile, but a sudden gust of wind stopped him. Oh, he said, I think we'd better. But it was too late. The sail's raft billowed up, and the raft sailed off of the island and dropped out of sight. The boy and the bear ran the short distance to the edge of the rock and gazed down to the water to watch in horror as the raft, after an elegant mid-air somersault, hit the water, rocked briefly from side to side, and then sailed off at considerable speed. It shrank away into the distance, and the boy and the bear watched it go. Well, said the boy, you were right about that sail. Okay, I'm going to stop there. I hope you enjoyed those few chapters. I didn't expect the mermaid chapter to be about a boat. I thought that they were going to meet an actual mermaid. But interesting so far. I wonder how they're going to get off of that rock when the tide comes back in without the Harrier and now without the raft as well. Seems like they're a bit stuck. Check in again soon. Bye.